we're going to look at the features. We're going to look at the features that are involved in this electronic spreadsheet software. Now, there's what you call a database. By a database, we're talking about a list of data that are related and are kept together, normally in form of tables, okay, in tabular format, or what we call a relation. So in databases, we shall notice that when we talk about a database, we shall realize that a relational database is one of the examples. It's the one in which we organize data in form of tables, rows and columns. So here we see data which has been presented in form of tables. That makes it a database. So Excel database template, here is an example. Then we have what we call an autofill. I remember someone asked a question about autofilling, and I also remember explaining it to you what autofill is. So when we talk about autofill is simply the process of copying something to the next cells, okay, without typing them. Okay, you copy a formula such that it can apply to all the other cells to which you are auto-filling. So when you look at this diagram here, we see someone is auto-filling the months or the dates, okay? So the person simply types January, and when he auto-fills, the rest of the months in that order will be put there. Let us try this practically. Now, are you all able to see my screen, which has our Excel application?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay, so let's call this months, and then here we type Jan. Then we can autofill and see whether it's going to perform the autofill. So if I continue autofilling, it copies for me the rest of the months automatically. So this is something which we find in Excel, which helps us to come up with these dates, okay, automatically. So you'll find someone who doesn't know about autofill or how to come up with these dates like that is going to continue typing January, February, March, April, May, and so on and so on. But someone who already knows what autofill does is just going to type the first month, Jan, and then drags down to he autofills the rest to come up with the rest of the months. Let's try January and see whether it can work. So for January, when I autofill, you'll also see that it brings the rest of the months, but this time in full. Then let us also try to autofill, this time a formula. So we can say January has 50, and then February has 20, and then March has 14. Let's assume these are the number of students who attended lessons the whole of January. Okay, let's call it number of students. So if 50 people attended, okay, in January, and 20 attended in February, then in March 30 attended. Now here in this other column, I don't know what we can put. Now assuming if these 50 students attended, please you keep your mics mute such that we don't disturb the others, okay? So I'm just going to mute all of you. You'll only unmute when I ask you to speak. So right here, let's say I'm supposed to divide these students, okay? I'm supposed to divide these students. Okay, the divided number. I'm supposed to divide these students into to be in 3 streams or 2 or something. So here I'm going to say I'll divide them by 3. Here I'll divide them by 2. probably there I'll divide them by 7. So here I want to find the number after dividing them by 3 or by 2 or by 7. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to enter a formula. Okay, I'll enter a formula, and we say to enter a formula you must and you should always begin with an equal sign, and then you can go ahead and type the cells you want to manipulate. So we are going to deal with D3. We are going to divide it by E3. So after typing that, you can press enter. Now it performs the calculation. Now, why we are doing this is we want to see the effect of autofill. Now, if I go ahead and autofill this, it's not going to copy the 16.66667 to the rest of the cells. It is going to copy the formula, okay? So autofilling will allow that formula to be, to calculate the rest of the divided numbers, okay? So you can see here, because I've autofilled, it automatically calculated D4 by divided by E4. So that is the reason why we autofill, okay? Any questions? Okay, someone is asking, how do you autofill? When you click on a cell, okay, when you click on a cell, you see a cell is active when its borders are bold, okay? You see now this is the active cell, and this active cell is called E9 according to what the name box is telling us. Now he's asking how to autofill. Autofilling, you look at that small box at the bottom right corner of the cell, of the active cell. So when you move your cursor to that box at the corner, the cursor changes to a plus sign. So after it is a plus sign, it means the autofill is now active. So you simply click and then you drag down. That is how you autofill. Okay, move your cursor to the right bottom corner of the active cell. The cursor changes to a plus sign. You press down the button, the mouse button for clicking, you click it down and then you drag downwards. Now, some of you, I'm sure, are wondering whether we can only autofill to the left, downwards, but we can autofill in any direction. I can autofill upwards, I can autofill downwards, I can also autofill to the left and to the right. Okay, for example, if I put here 1 and then I autofill to the right, okay, it copies the 1 to the right. I can also continue to autofill the whole of this downwards, okay? So you can autofill in any direction. After that, I can even autofill it upwards, okay? Upwards. So you can autofill in any direction, so long as you are doing it the right way. Okay, so you move your cursor to the right bottom corner of the active cursor, click and you drag downwards. That is how you autofill. I hope I have answered our colleague who asked how to autofill. I hope it is clear. Yes. Is it okay? All right, then let's go back to our presentation. That is how we autofill. Then next we look at what we call a workbook and then a worksheet. Now I need someone to explain for us what a worksheet is and a workbook. Okay, let someone explain to us what a worksheet is and what a workbook is. Anyone, because I remember explaining this the last time we met. Okay, just raise up your hand before I choose at random. Raise up your hand and then you tell us what a workbook is and what a worksheet is. I remember giving examples. I even used live examples, comparing it to your books, okay, your counter books at home and in your classes and so on. So anyone, put up your hand and then explain. Yes, Semaganda, please explain to us what a workbook and a worksheet is.
A worksheet is an equivalent to a paper in a book.
Okay, that is if you're comparing it to a book. But now that definition, when you give it to me in an exam, it is wrong. Okay, I used that example to explain to you how to understand it. So when that question is asked in an exam, you're right that it's an equivalent of a paper in a book, but that's not how you can define it in a computer paper, okay, or in an exam or in a test. So you can simply say a sheet is, okay, what about a workbook? Let someone first explain to us a workbook. What about a workbook? Someone, Emmanuel has already said it in the chat section. A workbook is a group of worksheets. Okay, yeah. So when you put the worksheets together, it forms what we call a workbook. Just like your papers in your books put together forms what you call a book. Okay. So what Emmanuel has typed is correct. Yeah. Someone is also saying in the chat section that a workbook is a file that contains one or more worksheets to help you organize data. Now that is a very good definition. Okay. Then a sheet is a single page of a workbook. Someone has explained it all. I appreciate those who are giving us the answers in the chat section. Okay, yeah, those answers are the correct ones. So Samaganda, you can define a worksheet just the way Paul Smith has defined it in the chat section, saying a worksheet is a single page of a workbook. Okay, so that is how you can define it in an exam paper or in a test. Okay, then a workbook contains a collection of sheets. Okay, one, two, or more worksheets put together form a workbook. Okay, so that is the difference between the two. So when I set a question in your exams or in any test about a workbook, and a worksheet, you should be able to give us the answers correctly. Okay. All right, let's move on.
No, just that.
Pardon? Okay, it's okay. All right, let's continue. Okay, let's move on to the next. Now, there's what you call filtering data. Okay, there's what you call filtering.
No, like
please,
the angles. I'm not gonna be.
Ayebari Timothy, please mute your.
Now what's it?
Ayebari Timothy, you're making noise for us. Mute your microphone, Ayebari. Ayebari, please. Don't unmute unless I tell you to. Okay. All right, let's move on. So when we talk about filtering, we are talking about getting specific data, okay? Getting a portion of the data we have, okay? So we filter data to only show a specific data depending on the condition at hand. For example, if we had a list of students, okay, let's use this, okay? Let's use this. Let's use, let me see. Okay, let me add more numbers here. Let me add more numbers here. We add more numbers here such that we can see how the filtering works. Okay, so that we can see how the filtering works. Okay, so I'm just going to remove whatever is in these other fields such that we have a clean worksheet. And then here, I'm going to add different numbers, okay, such that we can divide them equally. Okay, so I don't need to perform the division again because I already have the formula there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to autofill this up to down here. Okay, now when we talk about filtering, we're actually talking about getting specific data depending on the condition which has been given to us. For example, I can say, please, I need you to present me with data of those students who attended, and the numbers are above 30. Okay, when it's above 30, I need those months in which the students attended. So what I will do is I'm going to filter this data. How do I filter it? Now, when you go to the home menu, under the home menu, in the toolbar, we have an icon at the end, okay, close to find and select, called sort and filter. That is where we do the filtering. So when I click on it, it's going to bring me options of sorting from A to Z, that is in ascending order, and then Z to A is in descending order. That is to do with sorting, okay? And then the filter is the third last option. So when I click on filter, it's going to give me some arrows, the down arrow on each of the labels, okay? On each of the labels, such that when I want to filter according to month, I will click on that arrow. But my interest is to filter using the number of students, such that I can only get the list of months in which the student numbers exceeded 30. So when I click on that arrow facing down, it brings me all the options for filtering. Then you'll also find the options for sorting, okay, presented to me there. So using those options, I can actually do the filtration. Now, when you look down here, we have certain things selected, okay? Sorry about that. When we look down here, we see that certain things have been selected. All the numbers which are in that column have been checked. Now, these numbers being checked means they are going to appear. So if I uncheck this, I want you to notice what will happen. The month which has 30 won't appear. Okay, so you'll notice that the month which had 30 did not appear. So I have filtered this such that we only have the data which has no 30 students attending. But that's not our interest. Our interest is to get the number of students below or above what? Above 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on number filters. So number filters has other options where we can find does not equal to, greater than, less than. So all these are the conditions we use to filter. My interest is to filter things that are greater than 30, okay? So when I click on it, that small box appears on the screen such that we can type what it should be greater than, okay? So when I type 30, it means it's going to filter out only those months in which the number of students who attended is above 30, okay? So when we have two conditions, okay, you can set two conditions. You can give two conditions like greater than 30 and also less than 50, okay? So I can say greater than 30 and less than 50, okay? So when I click on OK, it does the filtration, but I think there's something we missed. There's something we missed here. Okay, let's just say greater than 30, okay? And then we say OK. So now it's going to bring all those months where the number of students who attended is greater than 30, okay? So this is how we filter. Then when we go back to our presentation here, you'll also notice that we have sorting data. Now, sorting data is simply arranging data in a certain order, okay? The order can be in ascending order, meaning from small to big, okay? Or it can be in descending order, meaning from big to small, that is descending. So when I say sort this data in ascending order, then you can do that. So I want someone else to do that. I'm going to give that person the ability to access my screen. So you can put up your hand if you can help us sort this data in ascending order according to the names. Put up your hand, then I let you do it for us on the screen. Yes? Who can help us sort? I need someone to help us sort. Someone who is using a computer for attending the lesson, you can tell me, then I let you sort for us what I have on the screen. Okay, just use the reactions, put up your hand, and then you help us sort. Sorting is not hard, okay? Sorting is not hard. Yes, anyone? Okay, should I choose at random? Yes. Okay, Chong Paul. Okay, who is that? Who spoke? Who was that?
I said we are not using P6.
All of you? Okay, still, even if you're not using a PC, I can just allow you to access whatever you do. Okay, I want Chong Paul. Chong Paul, I'm going to give you the right to access my screen, and then you can help us do that. Okay, so Paul, I'm going to give you the right to share to access my screen. Okay, so Paul, I want you to go to your share on your. Paul, are you together with me? So Paul, can you unmute and we talk? Chong Paul. Okay, I see Joshua. Joshua, are you using a computer? Okay. I think Chong Paul's network is not okay. Okay, Paul, I want you to go to that where you have share. Okay, where you have share, you request for remote control. Okay, where you have share screen, I want you to request me for remote control of my PC such that you can accept this. You can access my computer and you show us how to sort. Yes, Paul, do that. It's after chat, okay? After chat, there's a new share, there's a share screen. Then I want you to request for remote control of my computer. I will accept, and then you show us how to sort in ascending order. If you are failing to do that, you can simply tell us how we can sort it. So if you can't give me if you can't request for a remote control of my computer, just tell me, direct me on how we can actually sort this data in alphabetical order. So Paul, I'm waiting for you to help us sort this in alphabetical order using the months, okay, using this column here. Actually, let me remove these other ones. So Paul, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, please tell me what to do. We want to sort this data in alphabetical order from in ascending order, okay? A to Z. So you tell me what to do.
You go to the sort and filter option.
This one here.
Yes.
Okay. I've clicked on it. And then sort A to Z.
Yes.
Okay. So now there I have sorted in alphabetical order. Now you'll notice that I managed to do this without even selecting the data. Okay. Thank you, Paul, for taking us through that. But I want you to always, before you do any kind of formatting or before you put anything, you try to edit anything here in these applications, I always want you to first select the data. Okay. Select the data by highlighting. Now, there's a difference between highlighting and autofilling. Highlighting, you move the cursor inside the what? Inside the active cell, and then you drag downwards. That is highlighting. It is different from, it's different from autofilling. Autofilling, I told you, the cursor goes to the right bottom corner, then you drag. But highlighting or selecting text, you just put the cursor inside the cell, and then you can move it to the places you want to select. So the first thing I'll do is I'll select the whole of this text. Okay. I'll select the whole of that text like that. And then that's when I can go to sort and filter. You can even do a custom sort. Okay. Now, custom sort allows you to do the sorting according to your own ways, okay? The way you want to do it. So you'll notice that the custom sort actually gives you many other options. You want to sort this by months, okay? You can sort it by months, you can sort it by the number of students, or you can even sort it by divided number or column F. Now, these are the headers of these columns. You can see that months is represented here. Number of students is represented here. So even column F, though we didn't name it, but it is also still there because we have data in column F. So it will give you these options. Do you want to sort? Akim, let me finish and then you can ask your question, but you can leave the hands up. Okay, so I'm going to select sort by months. Okay, so I will sort this on cell values, but there are also other options of sorting it according to the color, then the font color, or the conditional formatting icon. And then the order is here. Okay. So when I click on OK, it does the sorting. So that is how I want you to always do it. First, select the data, and then you go ahead and sort. Now, yes, Akim, your hand was up. You can ask your question. Yes.
I was just requesting that could we do an example sorting it by number of students?
By number of students. Okay, let's do that. Hakim, thank you. So we are going to sort it according to the number of students. So the first thing I'll do is highlight, I check all this data which I need to sort. This time I'll go to sort and filter and then click on custom sort. Now in custom sort, we have sort by months, but this time Akim wants us to sort by number of students. Okay, now when you click on number of students, our interest is to sort on the cell values. We're using the values in the cell. Okay, then we are also sorting it from smallest to largest. Then when I click on OK, it's going to sort it in that order from the small one to the big one. That is how you sort from smallest to biggest using the number of students. Now, the reason why I've been selecting the data before sorting it is because if you don't select the data, it's possible that the sorting can only take effect on the other selected data. For example, I can simply, I can just decide to sort this other. Okay, I can decide to sort this only. When I sort it, I want you to notice something. Okay, I want you to notice that these ones won't change, but these values will change, meaning we have already corrupted our data. Okay, so when you do that, you only select a part of the data. It will ask you, it will give you a warning. What do you really want to do? Do you want to expand the section? When I click on expand the section selection, it's going to select the whole thing. But this time we want to continue with the current section selection. So when I click on sort, it's going to, okay, smallest to largest. Okay, I should have highlighted from there. sort, custom sort, continue with the current selection, sort from smallest to largest. Now, when I sort this, I want you to notice the months. The months won't change, okay? But these numbers are the ones which have been sorted. These ones remained constant, even this, even that. That is because we didn't select them. So that means selecting the data before sorting is very, very important. If you don't select the data, you may disorganize the data without even realizing it, okay? All right, so that is how we sort and filter. So next time we come back, we shall ask someone to explain to us, or whenever I ask the question, you will explain. Let's move on. Now we have what we call columns and rows. When we are dealing with these applications, whether you like it or not, what makes this application, the application we're talking about, the spreadsheet, is that it has the columns and the rows as one of its features we can visibly see, okay? So the rows and columns are the most important things here. They are the ones that help us organize the data in the format we want, okay? So we will always find the rows and columns. So that means the feature here we are looking at is the rows and columns. These allow us to organize the data. So the rows are what we see numbered, okay? The rows are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, up to whatever number it ends. Then the columns are numbered from A, B, C, D, and so on. Then we also talked about what happens, what name we give to the intersection of a row and a column. We call it a cell. So a cell is an intersection of a row and a column, just like we discussed last week, okay? So this is a cell which is called I8, given to us by the name box. It's called I8 because it is where I and the row 8 intersect, okay? That is why we call it a cell. That is to do with rows and columns, okay? So you can see here in this image, someone is giving us the columns, column 1, column 2, column 3. Then the rows, okay? This is row 1, row 2, and so on and so on. The same thing applies here. So this person is also showing you that the columns are the ones which are which have letters, okay? They are named by the letters. Okay, let's move on. And then we have what we call the formula bar and value and labels. Now, this is a very common question normally asked in your exams or tests. They'll ask you to define what a formula bar is, what a value is, and what a label is, okay? Now, for the formula bar, I want someone to explain to us what it is. Anyone, in your own words, explain to us what a formula bar is. Adrian Biro, unmute and you tell us what a formula bar is. Adrian Biro, yes. What do you think is a formula bar? Yes.
I think it's a bar where calculations are placed.
The calculations are placed, or even the functions are written, or excuse me, or a formula is written. So that bar is the one in which we can enter the formula or the function or any other kind of calculation, okay? Then it is also the one responsible to display to us what is in the active cell, okay? Let's look at that practically. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. Let's look at that practically. Now here we have our data still. Now, this is what we are talking about, the formula bar, okay? The formula bar is the one responsible for displaying whatever is in the active cell. Now, this cell is the active cell, I8 is the active cell, but in that cell we have nothing, okay? In that cell, we have nothing. That's why you see there's nothing in the formula bar. Now, when I click on this other one, there's something there. There's a formula in that cell. That is why we see the formula is there in the formula bar. When I select this other one, it also displays for me February. Now, Sometimes we use it to also enter calculations. For example, if I want to get the total of all the students here, okay, of the number of students in the whole year. Okay, just the total of these two students, November and December. I can calculate it here. So I can write the formula in the formula bar, starting with an equal sign. Then I'll say this cell plus this other cell. Then I'll press the return key, enter. So it does the calculation and then puts the answer there in the active cell. So that is also the use of a formula bar. Then we also saw there we were talking about labels and values. Now, anything which is not a number, or a numerical value in our Excel workbook is called a label. Okay. For example, here we have months. The word months is a label. Okay. The word number of students is a label. March, April, February, May, June, and so on is also, these are also labels. Okay. Because they are not numerical, we can't use them in calculations. So those texts you find in this application are what we call labels. Okay. So these labels, we cannot use them in mathematical calculations. For example, if I try to multiply this cell, okay, let us see, equals to September, what is in C2 times 2. When I click on enter, it's going to bring us an error. Okay, it will bring us an error. Later on, we are going to look at these errors, how they are tagged and what it means and how we can correct them. So the error is there because we are using a label to perform a calculation. So labels are not used in mathematical calculations. Okay. However, the values, when we talk about values, those are the numerical data. Okay, numerical, the ones we can actively use in calculations, just like these ones. Okay, so 80 plus 100, these are values. So anything which is a value is the one we use in the calculations to perform the calculations. Okay, that is the difference between a value and a label. So you'll be asked in your exams to give the difference between a value and a label. You can also be asked to define and explain these terms: formula bar, value, labels. Okay, so you have to be very sober when you are reading those questions. When you come across those questions, you should know how to answer them. Okay, all right, let's continue. We also have what we call graphs. Now, this application does not only allow us to present data in tabular format, it also allows us to represent the data in diagrammatic manner. Okay, we can use charts to represent the data we have in the tables. Okay, so we could actually draw a graph for this data we have here. Okay, we can draw a graph of months against the number of students, or the number of students against the number of the months in the year. So how do we do this? Most of the times when you come across these questions, the questions normally tell you insert a graph in sheet this and this, and then you name the sheet this. Okay, so that is how normally the questions come. Now, the beauty with ICT is ICT actually gives you answers, or it directs you on what you have to do. That is to say the practical bit of it. The practical bit of it has a way of kind of directing you. For example, they tell you insert a graph. Indirectly, they are trying to tell you that you can find the graphs in the insert menu. So if you can understand the questions, you can easily do these questions without any problem. So let's try to insert a chart. Okay, so I'll go to insert. Under insert, you'll actually see that we can insert very many things. You can insert a table, you can insert a chart here. We have different types of chart. We have 2-dimension charts, and we also have the 3D charts. The 3D charts look more of, okay, let me just show it to you such that you can see it for yourself. On each of these charts, you can actually see we have 2-dimension column charts, 3-dimension column charts, okay? Different types are here. We also have 2-dimension bar charts. We also have the 3D bar charts. So you can find more of them in this, okay? You can find more of them in this. Okay.
Insert one
Pardon? I beg your
Could you
pardon?
please document one chart? Any chart?
Okay, we are going to draw the chart. Okay, we are going to insert the chart. Now, we are going to draw a chart for months and the number of students. So what you're supposed to do is, before you draw the chart, you have to identify which columns you want to present in this chart. The chart I want to draw is to represent this, okay, months and the number of students. Now, some of you are wondering how I am able to highlight these two texts differently. What I'm doing is, you first highlight months, okay, by dragging up to down there, and then you press down the control button or the control key on your keyboard to highlight another thing without the other one going off, okay? Just like that, okay? So I'm able to highlight these two things separately because I highlighted the second one after pressing the control key on your keyboard, okay? That is if you are trying to draw a graph of months against divided number. But our interest is to draw a graph of months against the number of students, okay? Now, after selecting the columns of which you want to represent on a chart, you can then go ahead and choose the type of chart you want to draw, okay? So let's draw a column chart. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to draw using the clustered column chart. So when I click on it, now you can see our chart is here. Pardon? I beg your pardon? What are you saying?
I use the 3D chart.
I use the 3D. Okay, someone is saying I use the 3D. Now that I already drew this, to change it to 3D, it's simple. When the chart is active, I want you to notice something. Right now, the chart is not active, and you see this, our toolbar looks normal. But when I select the chart, you'll notice that another menu is added. Actually, 2 menus are added, design and format. These will allow us to edit the chart. Now, he wanted us to use the 3D chart. So you can change the chart type from here, okay? When you click on chart type, we have the 3D here, okay? So when I click on this, and then I say, okay, it changes it to 3D, okay? I can still go ahead and make it appear like this, okay? And then when I say, okay, there it is. That is the 3-dimension chart, okay? It's 3D. Now the 3D, why we call it 3-dimension is because in your mathematics, we have axes, the y-axis, the x-axis, not so in the Cartesian plane. But when we're talking about 3D, 3-dimension, there is an extra axis called the Z axis. So we have X, Y, Z. That is why we call it the 3D, okay? The 3D is more or less like in space, okay? It's what we are having right now. In real life, we are in the 3D, okay? Real, okay? It's in space. So 3D has 3 axes. So as you continue with your education, you'll actually you'll come across these dimensions, okay? But most of the times, unless you're told to do so, don't use the 3D charts, okay? If you're not asked to draw a chart which is 3D, don't draw it unless you are asked to to do it. So someone is asking, where is the axis located? That's a good question. Now, let me just explain it to you here. Let me share with you this screen such that I can show it to you clearly. So someone is asking about the 3D dimension and asking where the Z is located. So this is how the axis or the Cartesian plane looks. I'm just going to draw it here using the shapes. Okay, I'm going to insert shapes. Under shapes, I'm going to use these. Okay, so first there's that axis. Just going to copy and paste it 3 times. Okay. So there is our y-axis. Ideally, in our mathematics, we know the Cartesian plane is something like this. Okay, something like this, where we have the the y-axis and the x-axis. But when we are talking about the 3-dimension, the y-axis comes like that, and then we have the z-axis, which is something like this. Okay, that is how the 3-dimension Cartesian plane looks like, where here we have the y-axis. Okay, let me make it more interesting by also labeling them there. So that will be the y-axis. Okay, that is the y-axis. That is the y-axis. We have the x-axis here, and then we have the z-axis there. Okay, so this will be our z-axis. Okay, and then this is our x-axis. So that is how the 3D Cartesian plane looks like. It's 3D, 3-dimension, such that whatever is put here is in space. I want you, if you're in a room, if you're in your sitting room or in your bedroom, you can actually compare this with your walls. Okay, the walls you have in that room. You take a corner. I just want you to take a corner, and then you follow that corner downwards up to the floor. This is how the floor actually looks like. Okay, this is how you could look at the Cartesian plane. The corner extends going up to the ceiling. Then at the floor, it moves, it extends towards the other walls. So when you compare the corner of your wall and what I've drawn here, it is what you call the Cartesian plane for a 3-dimension. Okay, such that if you have a chair in your sitting room, that sitting room is in that Cartesian plane. It is now in space. Okay, that is the difference between 2-dimension and 3D. So for 2-dimension, things are just in the y and x-axis. They are presented in those 2 axes. However, when we talk about the 3D, it has 3 axes: x, y, z. Someone is saying northwest, southwest, or east-west, or something. All right, you have different ways of viewing this. Okay, but if you want to get more information, you can actually visit Google, and Google will be able to tell you everything you need. Okay, so this is not what we are learning today. It was just a by the way for that person who asked what it is. Okay, so we're not going to waste a lot of time here. Okay, all right, let's continue with so we have already drawn our chart here, and I was telling you, unless you are told to do so, don't draw the 3D chart. Okay, so the chart you should always be drawing is the very first type there. Okay, it's the first type there, this one here. Okay, so that is how you draw the chart. Now back to our normal thing here. Now, very many times they can tell you to also label the axis. Okay, I'm doing this practically such that when you come across a question which is asking you to draw a graph, they can tell you to put legends. They can tell you to give it a very suitable title. Then they can also tell you to label the axis, okay? So we are going to learn how to format that. Like I told you, when the graph is active, 2 other menus appear there, where we have things to do with the design. Design is to do with appearance. And then we can also format the data there, okay? So when you go to format, you have those options, okay? You have the options there of formatting the chart, okay? So you can notice when, excuse me, when I put my cursor there, the way these things are presented changes. You can see. So that is how we can format to do with appearance. Then we can actually also manipulate things here. So you'll ask me how this window appeared. All I did was to simply double click, okay? I simply double clicked there. Then this other window appeared. This window will help you to come up with different ways you can present the data. For example, I can actually go ahead and put a suitable heading here, okay? I can put a suitable heading here, a graph of number of students against what? The months in the year, okay? Something like that, okay? So you'll notice that our graph has now a nicer heading. Then they can also ask you to give what? To label the axis, okay?
Nice.
So, pardon? You can name the y-axis and the x-axis. Along the x-axis, you can call it the months. Then on the y-axis, you call it the number of years. How do we do that? You can come to the chart options, okay? You click on the chart options, and then we have here the horizontal axis. So when I click on the horizontal axis, which is our y-axis, it is this number of, it's the number of months here, okay? It's the number of months. Then the axis options, we can actually do several things with this. We can edit it in any way we want, okay? We can change the gradient line, we can even change the fill, and so on and so on. Then we can even give it shadows, okay? Shadows, 3D format, and so on. We can also adjust the alignment, okay? We can also adjust the alignment, how text is organized. You can see here the text is kind of slanting. You can make it vertical. You can also make it horizontal, depending, okay? You can also do things with the labels there. So when you click on the labels, I want to see what happens really. What happens to the labels when we, you can do something with the distance from the axis. The labels are these: March, April, February, and so on. You can increase how far they should be from the axis, but by default, it is automatic, okay? Then we can also deal with the number, okay? It's general number. You can do anything. So this is how you format the chart area, okay? Then other options inside there may include also the chart. Okay, let's see the chart area, okay? Now the chart area, we can also do something with the size. We can also do something with the properties, okay? But remember, I said our graph should be drawn in a new sheet. So what I will do is, I'll first of all do what? Create a new sheet. Then they have told you to probably rename that sheet, call it graphs. You right click on the sheet, and then you click on rename. Once you click on rename, it becomes active, so you can give it a new name. Our senior 2, we can call it senior 2 graph, okay? So now that we have our new sheet is there, our new sheet is already active, we can then go back to sheet 1 and we cut this graph from here, okay? I'm cutting it by pressing Ctrl X on my keyboard. Then I'm going to paste it in sheet 2. So there is our graph, which we can find in sheet 2. So that is how we represent data in form of graphs. Okay, let me just check the chat section. Someone is saying his network is poor, I should record. Yes, I'm recording. Okay, we are recording this. I think, yeah, I think we are recording. Yes, we are recording the lesson. So don't worry, you can keep on trying such that we don't leave you so behind. Okay, so that is how we represent data in form of graphs. So this is just how you can see someone is drawing his data and trying to manipulate it, no fill, and so that is now formatting. All right, let's move on. Now, there's what we call a range. Sorry that this one is misbehaving. There's what we call a range in Excel, okay? In Excel, when we talk about a range, we are actually talking about a selection. Now, a range, later on, we are going to look at operators used in Excel. A range allows you to specify some cells put together, okay? You can represent many cells by using what you call a range. So what am I talking about? When I select the whole of these, what I've selected there is a range, okay? What I've selected there is a range. Now we use a full colon to specify ranges. For example, if I want to perform the sum of numbers from 14 up to 50 without these other 60, 70, 80, and then 100, I will use what we call a range. What I will do is I'll use a function. Later on, you'll understand more about function, but I want you to start looking at it from here to get familiar with it. A function called sum to perform the sum, okay? Then I'm just going to drag and drop up to here. Then I will close. Now I want you to notice the formula. You'll notice that we have D3, then full colon, D10. What does this mean? This means this is a range which is running from the cell D3 up to the cell D10, meaning the rest of the cells D4, D5, D6, D7 up to D10 are represented in between by that full colon. Okay, so this is a range. This is what we talk about when we talk about a range. So that when I press enter, it does the calculation here for me. Okay, it does the calculation here for me. But our interest is to look at a range. Okay, so I have selected a range here to perform the sum of the number of students within this range from D3 up to D10. That is what we talk about that is what you have to know when we talk about a range. Okay. Now, I hope we are fine up to that point. Are we okay? Are there any questions so far before we continue? We are left with about 18 minutes for the end of our lesson. Are there any questions? Okay, let's continue. Now, let's look at what we call operators. Now, we have been performing several calculations here, okay? We have been performing several calculations. For example, here, we calculated a division between the cells D3 and E3. And then somewhere here, we calculated a sum, which I removed. And then here is also a sum. Now, these calculations, for them to do what we want them to do, we use a formula. And these formulas are able to work because of what we call operators. An operator is what we find, what makes us to perform calculations, okay? So someone is asking, what is the difference between filtering data and sorting data? Who can help Benjamin to answer that question? Because the difference is clear. Excuse me. The difference is clear. Sorting data, you're simply arranging data. But when you're filtering data, you're getting a portion of the data and displaying it. Okay, Benjamin, that is it. As simple as that. When you're sorting data, you are simply arranging it in a certain order, either ascending or descending. But when you're filtering it, you are getting a portion of that data and it's